Do you desire me as your wife, human? Her voice trembled like a song made of silver and stormlight. Every sound in the grand hall of Solaris 9 stopped. Every engine hum, every mechanical whisper of the alien palace, frozen by those impossible words. Commander Aric Vale stood in the silence, half shattered by disbelief, half electrified by the sight before him. The alien princess, Lyra'thene, daughter of the Radiant Throne, stood inches away, her sapphire eyes gleaming like two galaxies caught in a heartbeat. Her crown flickered with living light, tendrils of bioluminescent silk flowing through her hair. Aric exhaled slowly, his hand resting on the holster of his sidearm, not from fear, but control. Humans didn't stutter, humans never bowed first. And yet her question, it pierced through armor and pride alike. He smirked. You really know how to break the silence, princess? The soldiers and courtiers around them whispered in alien tongues. To them, this was sacrilege, a royal asking a question forbidden by their custom. But to Aric it was something deeper, dangerous, beautiful. Lyra's lips parted, her tone steady now. I am not jesting, Commander Vale. You risked everything for my people. You destroyed your own fleet to stop the Dominion's annihilation beam. You bled for a world that was not yours. Her gaze softened, then darkened. Tell me, was it loyalty or love? The chamber lights dimmed as if the palace itself was listening. Aric's mind replayed the battle 3 nights ago. The burning sky. The Dominion dreadnought collapsing into fire. His ship drifting half-dead through the radiation storm. Humanity had lost 1,000 lives that night. And yet he was here, in the heart of the Radiant Empire, facing a being who could end or unite 2 civilizations with a single vow. He took a slow step forward. You want the truth, princess? His voice cut through the air like a drawn blade. Humans don't die for loyalty. We fight for what we believe deserves to survive. Lyra's breath hitched. And you believe that is me? Aric tilted his head, the ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Maybe. Or maybe I believe that somewhere behind your crown and ceremony, there's someone who still remembers what it feels like to be free. A shiver passed through the room. The alien council murmured warnings in ultrasonic frequencies, sharp metallic tones of disapproval. Lyra ignored them. She took another step closer, her light now casting soft blue reflections on his human skin. Your species, she whispered. You speak of freedom, as if it is a flame you carry through every storm. You would dare to defy empires for it. Because, Aric said quietly, without freedom, love's just another kind of cage. Their eyes met. 2 beings from different stars, bound by something neither could explain. For a moment the universe seemed to hold its breath, then a distant alarm shattered the spell. Red light slashed through the hall. A guard shouted in the alien tongue, "The Dominion fleet returning. Orbit breach in 90 seconds." The court exploded into chaos. Generals sprinted. Commanders shouted codes. And Lyra turned to Aric, her composure cracking for the first time. They shouldn't have found us so soon, she whispered, the glow of her crown dimming with dread. Aric's jaw clenched. Time's up. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a calm steel tone. If we live through this, princess, then you'll get your answer. He reached for his blaster, eyes locked on hers. But right now, we fight. She stared at him as the hall trembled with the first distant explosion. Her heart torn between duty and something terrifyingly human. And somewhere deep in her soul, a whisper echoed. Maybe the stars themselves were listening when she asked that question. The sky of Solaris 9 burned red. Twin suns bled through the clouds as Dominion warships tore through the upper atmosphere like blades of light. The palace shields flickered, struggling against the incoming fire. Aric and Lyra sprinted down the crystal corridors, the floor shuddering beneath each explosion. Her guards flanked them, shouting coordinates in their radiant tongue, their armor glowing like molten glass. Evacuation pods are sealed, one shouted. They've jammed our quantum gates. Lyra turned to Aric, breath sharp, eyes wide. They're not just attacking the capital, they're targeting me. Aric's boots clanged against the metallic floor as he led her down another corridor, past fallen soldiers and shattered statues. Then they're wasting time, he said, scanning ahead. You're not dying today, princess. You don't understand, she said, her voice trembling with urgency. They want what's inside me. He stopped, turning sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Lyra hesitated. For a heartbeat, she looked almost guilty. I am heir to the radiant core, a living fragment of the source that powers my world. Without it, our empire collapses. Aric's expression hardened. So you're saying you're the battery that keeps this place alive? Her eyes glistened. More than that. I am its link to the stars. Another blast ripped through the palace, throwing them both to the ground. A rain of glowing shards scattered across the corridor. Aric grabbed Lyra, pulling her close to shield her from the debris. His pulse thundered in his ears. Then that makes you the biggest target in the system, he muttered, helping her up. And the Dominion doesn't stop until they take what they want. Lyra's voice was small now, almost breaking. That is why I asked you that question earlier, Commander Vale. Aric frowned. What about marriage? Her gaze locked on his. In my culture, that vow binds two souls. If I choose a mate, the core splits its bond and links with both. The Dominion can't extract it once it's shared. He froze, realization dawning. You're saying if I said yes, they'd lose their prize? Yes, she whispered. And you would carry half the burden of the radiant core. It would protect both our worlds, or destroy them if misused, he laughed, short and incredulous. You're telling me the galaxy's deadliest weapon doubles as a wedding ring. Her lips curved sadly. To us, love was never meant to be safe. Before he could answer, a sonic boom rattled the palace. A hole tore open in the roof as Dominion drop pods slammed through, spilling armored soldiers of black steel and glass. They moved with mechanical precision, rifles humming with dark energy. Aric drew his weapon in one fluid motion. Behind me, he growled. Lyra raised her hand, her crown blazing. Energy flared from her fingertips, a luminous wave that knocked 3 enemies back. But more poured in, surrounding them. Aric fired with ruthless precision, every shot cutting through the smoky haze. Get to the vaults, he shouted. I'll hold together, she cut him off, stepping beside him, her eyes burning bright. We stand together. For a moment, human and alien fought as one, the raw will of a soldier and the divine power of a starborn queen. The clash of their defiance echoed through the collapsing palace like thunder. Then came the voice, deep, distorted, transmitted through the smoke. Princess Lyra'thene, it boomed, you cannot hide behind a human. The Dominion claims what it is owed. A figure emerged from the shadows, a towering alien warlord in obsidian armor, his face a smooth mask of molten gold. Aric narrowed his eyes. That thing yours? Lyra's voice was ice. That is Lord Varen, the one who murdered my father. The warlord raised a hand and the soldiers fell still. Surrender the core, he said, his tone cold as vacuum. And I will spare your planet. Aric stepped forward, his weapon still smoking. You'll have to kill me first. The warlord's golden face tilted slightly. That can be arranged, human. Aric grinned, unafraid. Try it. The hall erupted once more into fire and fury, as destiny began to weave its cruel design. And in the heart of the storm, Lyra realized something terrible. If she wanted to save her people, she might have to choose him now, or lose everything. The roar of battle reverberated through the shattered halls of Solaris 9. Fire reflected off crystal walls, throwing jagged shadows across Aric and Lyra as they fought back to back. Every movement was precise, Aric's human instincts weaving through the alien chaos, Lyra's radiant energy striking with a brilliance that seared the eyes. Aric. Lyra shouted over the thunderous explosions, her voice laced with fear and awe. We can't hold them off forever. He wiped sweat and ash from his brow, firing again at the approaching Dominion soldiers. Then we won't. We're getting to the core or we die trying. She nodded, her hand glowing with iridescent light. Every pulse of the core within her resonated through the palace, shaking walls and floor alike. She could feel it calling to him, stranger and human though he was, tempting, protective, alive. As they reached the vault doors, Lyra hesitated. Her fingers hovered over the console. If I open this, half of the core will bond with you. It's irreversible. Aric's grin was sharp, fearless. You're asking me to marry you while a horde of death machines is about to kill us? Pretty dramatic first date, Princess. Her lips twitched into the faintest smile despite the tension. In my culture, marriage binds fate itself. He raised an eyebrow. Then let's bind it fast. Show me the human way of surviving impossible odds. With a deep breath, Lyra activated the vault. The doors slid open with a thunderous groan, revealing the radiant core, a pulsating orb of light, liquid energy swirling like galaxies caught in a droplet. Its glow filled the chamber, bathing both human and alien in brilliance too intense to behold. The moment Aric stepped closer, a surge of warmth and power coursed through him. He staggered slightly, feeling his thoughts sharpen, his senses ignite. The core was alive. It recognized him, or perhaps judged him, and it accepted. Lyra's eyes widened, voice barely a whisper. It bonded. Aric's hand reached for hers. When their fingers touched, the core pulsed, sending waves through the room. Walls cracked, alarms blared, and even the Dominion soldiers faltered, blinded by the light. Lord Varen's voice cut through the chaos. Impossible. You dare bind yourself to a human? Aric smirked, his swagger unshaken even as the world trembled. I dare. Now step aside or you'll regret underestimating us. Lyra looked at him, seeing not only courage but something profoundly human, defiance, determination, and the kind of audacity no alien empire could match. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and something more, something she had not expected. The core flared violently, reacting to the threat. Energy arced in ribbons around Aric and Lyra, forming a radiant shield. Dominion soldiers shrieked as their weapons fizzled and melted against the force field. Aric's eyes narrowed. Princess, we can't just hold them off. We need to push them back. Lyra inhaled deeply, feeling the bond deepen, feeling him in ways words could not capture. Together, they surged forward, Aric's human strategy blending with Lyra's alien power. Every strike, every shot, every pulse of the core became a synchronized dance of survival and defiance. The Dominion soldiers fell like leaves before a storm, but Lord Varen advanced, his golden mask gleaming ominously. Your core cannot save you, little princess, he shouted, swinging a massive energy blade. Aric blocked it with a makeshift shield of core energy, gritting his teeth. Maybe not. But it's got something you don't, heart. With a flash, Lyra released a torrent of energy through him, their bond amplifying the force beyond comprehension. Varen staggered, his armor melting under the radiant onslaught. And in that moment, Lyra realized the truth. The core didn't just bond with Aric, it chose him. Not for survival, not for strategy, for him. Her lips trembled as she whispered almost to herself. Then, I choose you too. Aric turned to her, grin unshaken despite the chaos around them. Good, because if we survive this, you're stuck with me. Lyra's laughter, bright and unrestrained, cut through the smoke and ruin, echoing across the palace. Even amidst fire and war, something irrepressibly human and wildly alien stirred. Hope. Lord Varen roared in fury, retreating as his forces faltered. But deep in the shadows, the real threat watched, unseen and patient. And the stars themselves seemed to tremble at what had just begun. The palace lay in ruins. Smoke curled from shattered towers, and the air shimmered with residual energy from the radiant core. Solaris 9 had survived the first assault, but only barely. The once grand halls were littered with scorched alien guards, broken consoles, and shards of crystal reflecting the twin suns. Aric Vale stood at the edge of the main atrium, brushing ash from his jacket. His human swagger remained unshaken, but the weight of the core thrummed through him, a constant hum in his chest. It was more than power. It was responsibility. One wrong move and the Radiant Empire would collapse, or worse, the energy could consume him. Lyra'thene approached cautiously, her sapphire eyes wide with concern. Her usual regal composure was tempered by exhaustion. Aric, the core bonded with you, yes, but you must understand it's not just a weapon. It responds to your mind, your emotions, your intent. You are linked, Aric smirked, leaning against a scorched wall. Linked, huh? Sounds like a fancy way of saying I'm stuck with you now. Lyra's lips twitched in the faintest smile. In a manner of speaking, yes. The core pulsed at that moment, sending a soft ripple through the atrium. Aric felt it as a vibration in his chest. His thoughts sharpened, memories of battles, faces, and distant stars rushing in a tidal wave of clarity. He realized that he could sense the palace around him, the flicker of energy in the walls, the slightest tremor in the remaining defenses. Interesting, he muttered. I can feel everything, like I'm part of it. Lyra's gaze softened, yet fear lingered behind her eyes. That is exactly what makes you dangerous to our enemies. And vulnerable. The Dominion is regrouping. They've never faced a human bonded with the core before. They will adapt, and when they do, we must be ready. Aric ran a hand through his hair, considering. So what you're saying is, We've bought some time, not safety. Exactly, she said, her voice steady but urgent, and time is running short. Every moment the core exists without full protection, the Dominion grows stronger. They are not merely interested in conquering us, they want to weaponize you. Aric's smirk hardened into a determined glare. Then let's make sure they don't get the chance. You lead, I follow, for now. But don't think I'll just be a passenger. Lyra's eyes flickered with admiration and unease. She had never met a human like him, someone so audacious, so fearless, yet so deeply connected to the fragility of life. She realized why her advisors had warned her against such entanglements. But Aric wasn't like anyone she had ever known. A sudden tremor shook the atrium. The core pulsed violently, its light flickering. Lyra's heart leapt. Something's coming. Something the core senses, and it is not Dominion. Aric's head snapped toward the ceiling, instincts razor sharp. Not them. Then who? From the shadows of the shattered hall, a low hum began, growing into a deep vibration that resonated through the ground. Energy swirled unnaturally, bending the light of the twin suns into fractured patterns. The core within Aric flared in response, a warning more profound than any alarm. Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper, trembling. It's the shadow entity. It has followed the core across galaxies. It waits for the bond to weaken. It hungers for us. For both of us, Aric stepped forward, chest tight but mind clear. Then it's going to learn something about humans today. The first ripple of the entity appeared as a distortion in the air, a shadow darker than the absence of light, moving with intelligence. The palace trembled again. Aric felt the core pull at him, a call to action, a warning. Protect, survive, dominate. Lyra's hand found his. Aric, if it reaches us, not even the core can guarantee survival. This is beyond war, this is... Her voice faltered. I know, he said, tightening his grip. It's why we fight. Together. The shadows writhed, growing, feeding on fear and hesitation. Aric's mind cleared, strategy forming with lightning precision. We can't run. We fight, we survive, and we show this thing that humans don't bow. Lyra met his gaze, her fear mingling with a strange exhilaration. For the first time she realized what it meant to truly trust a human, not just to survive the battle, but to challenge destiny itself. The core surged between them, radiating energy like a living heartbeat. And in that glow they both understood. What had begun as a question, "Do you desire me as your wife?" was now entwined with the fate of stars, the survival of empires, and the proving of humanity's indomitable spirit. Outside the ruined palace, the shadow shifted, a predator sensing the courage of its prey. The first strike would come at dawn, and they would be ready. Dawn crept over Solaris 9, casting long streaks of gold and violet across the ruined palace. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and ozone, the remnants of the Dominion assault lingering like a warning. But the true threat had not yet revealed itself. Aric stood on the edge of the upper terrace, the core's bond humming in his chest. He could feel the pulse of the palace, the subtle tremors of the world itself, and now, something darker. The shadow entity was close, stalking them, bending reality around it. It was more than energy, more than a weapon. It was a predator, and it had studied them. Lyra approached silently, her robes trailing like liquid light. Her eyes, wide and determined, reflected both fear and awe. Aric, it knows you are human. That is why it is here. It senses weakness. Aric smirked, brushing a streak of ash from his cheek. Weakness? Princess, it hasn't seen me yet. Her lips twitched, but she didn't smile. This is not just a fight for survival. It is a test of the bond. If the core falters, we both die. The wind shifted unnaturally, carrying a low, resonant hum. The light of the twin suns flickered as though the sky itself were being bent. The shadows around the palace twisted, stretching into impossible forms, and the air grew thick, almost liquid. Aric felt the first tendrils brush his consciousness. Cold, probing, intelligent. He clenched his fists. I don't care if it thinks it can scare me. Let it come. The core doesn't just protect me, it protects us. Lyra nodded, her crown flaring as she focused her energy. We must move. The shadow tests the core first, then the bond. It will not hesitate. They descended into the main atrium where shards of glass and metal littered the floor. Aric's eyes swept the ruins, reading the space like a battlefield he had fought 100 times. Lyra followed, her energy flickering with tension and anticipation, and then silence. A single ripple of darkness appeared at the far end of the hall. It pulsed, thickening, growing, folding space around it. The shadow entity revealed itself, not fully, but enough. It was a void of form, a shifting mass of hatred and intent, with edges that cut the light. Aric's hand went to his blaster, but the core within him flared first, creating a shield of radiant energy. "Princess, stand back. Let's see what it's made of." Lyra stepped beside him anyway, her hands glowing with a dazzling, almost painful brilliance. "I am not hiding, Aric. We face this together." The shadow lunged, not physically but mentally, probing, twisting, seeking cracks in their resolve. Aric felt his thoughts pulled, memories assaulted, doubts whispered in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. Fear, failure, loss, they tried to seep into him to weaken the core. He gritted his teeth. "It thinks I can be broken. Humans can be stubborn, but not that easy." Lyra's voice cut through the darkness, steady, strong. "Focus on us." "On the bond, on me." Aric reached out, their hands clasping. The core responded, surging with unimaginable light, pushing back against the shadow's invasive tendrils. The hall trembled. Glass shattered. The shadow shrieked, a sound without ears, a sound that rattled the mind rather than the air. Aric's mind cleared. "It feeds on fear. Let's starve it." They moved as one, human and alien, the core a living pulse between them. Aric's strategy, human cunning and improvisation, merged with Lyra's precision and radiant power. They struck not with brute force alone, but with unity, trust and raw determination. Every strike, every pulse, every calculated movement pushed the shadow back, forcing it to retreat, bled it, weakened its hold. For a moment it seemed victorious, an endless black sea ready to consume them. But Aric's grin never faltered. "It doesn't understand humans. We fight, and we survive." Lyra's laughter, tense but triumphant, echoed in the hall. "And it doesn't understand us." The shadow recoiled, vanishing into the fractured walls with a low, malignant growl. But its threat remained. It was patient. It would return, stronger, smarter, hungrier. Aric lowered his weapon, breathing heavily, sweat mixing with ash. He looked at Lyra, their bond thrumming between them like a heartbeat. "Princess, if we survive this, you still owe me dinner for putting me through that." Lyra's lips curved into a genuine smile, the first unguarded expression since the core bonded. "And if we survive, human, perhaps you will deserve it." But neither spoke of the shadow lingering just beyond their senses. Patient, waiting, knowing that their bond was not just strength, it was also a beacon and some threats. Aric realized only grew stronger when ignored. The throne room of Solaris 9 was a ruin of beauty and authority. Crystal pillars cracked, and the once pristine floors bore scorch marks from Dominion weaponry. The court gathered reluctantly, alien nobles whispering, their radiant robes flickering like dying stars. All eyes turned to Princess Lyra'thene, whose crown still glowed with residual energy from the core. Casting a soft blue hue across the chamber, Aric Vale stood beside her, tall, unflinching, his human posture defiant amidst the alien aristocracy. The bond with the core pulsed through him, a constant reminder that he was no longer just a soldier. He was part of their empire's lifeblood, and every noble in the room could sense it. Lyra spoke first, her voice steady but edged with tension. "The Dominion has retreated, for now. But their attacks were only the beginning. They know of the core, they know it is now bonded to a human, and the shadow entity has marked us. Both threats grow stronger with every moment we delay action." A senior counselor, his robes flickering with sparks of bioluminescence, leaned forward. "Princess, the core's bond with a human. It is unprecedented. How can we trust that he will not fail us, that he will not bring ruin to the Empire?" Aric stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes locked on the counselor. "Listen carefully. I may be human, but I've survived worse than you can imagine. You want the core safe? You want your empire standing? Then stop doubting and start acting, because hesitation will get you dead faster than any Dominion fleet." A murmur ran through the court. Some were offended, others impressed. Lyra's eyes met Aric's, a mix of pride and worry. His audacity was human, shocking and unpolished, yet it carried an undeniable truth. The counselor's voice trembled. "But he is human. Can one such as he? Aric interrupted, stepping closer. I fought for your world when it wasn't mine. I bled for it, I risked my life, and I won't let anyone take it without a fight. I may be human, but I'm not fragile. I'm capable. And right now you're going to either stand with me or step aside while we fight for survival. Lyra's hand brushed his arm, a subtle gesture, grounding, a reminder that they were bound. Her voice softened as she addressed the council. The human is bonded to the core. That bond is more than power. It is now part of our empire's survival. And he has proven himself in ways none of you can yet comprehend. Trust is required, not just in him, but in humanity. Whispers filled the room, some approving, some fearful. The weight of centuries of tradition collided with the audacity of a human soldier. And in the midst of it all, the shadow entity stirred, sensing the instability, feasting on the tension and doubt. Suddenly, a ripple of darkness appeared at the edge of the throne room, a subtle distortion that only Aric and Lyra noticed. The core pulsed violently in response. Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper, urgent. It's testing us again. The shadow grows stronger when our unity falters. Aric narrowed his eyes. Then let's make it fear us instead. He turned to the nobles. Prepare your fleets. Strengthen your defenses. And for anyone here thinking of betrayal or hesitation, remember this. The core doesn't protect weakness. It rewards resolve. And right now my resolve is to survive and to keep this empire alive. The council fell silent. The air thickened with tension. Outside, the twin suns rose higher, but their light seemed diminished as if the shadow's influence reached beyond the palace walls. Lyra took a deep breath. Aric, the Dominion and the Shadow are not our only problems. Some within the Empire question the bond. Some believe the core should remain solely under my control. They will test us, our loyalty, our strength, and perhaps even our lives. Aric's grin was sharp, unwavering. Then let them test. Humans thrive on impossible odds. Let's see if they can break what's already unbreakable. She nodded, determination hardening in her eyes. The palace trembled once more, a warning echoing through the corridors. The shadow entity had not yet struck, but it was close. And when it did, it would exploit every fracture in trust, every doubt, every hesitation. For the first time, Aric realized the true battle would not just be fought with weapons or power, but with unity, courage, and the strength to face impossible odds together. Lyra's hand found his again. We will face them. As one. Aric's eyes met hers, a grin tugging at his lips despite the looming threats. Good, because if we survive this, I'm not going anywhere. Outside the palace, the horizon darkened, a ripple of shadow stretching across the lands. Both human and alien forces braced for war, but the true test was yet to come. The Empire trembled, the bond pulsed, and the shadow waited. Patient, intelligent, hungry, and the war for survival, for loyalty, for love was only beginning. The battlefield stretched across Solaris 9's upper plains, a scarred expanse of blackened soil, shattered crystal spires, and rivers of molten metal. Dominion warships hovered above like predators, their engines slicing through the twin suns' morning light. Shadows flickered across the horizon, subtle, ominous, the presence of the shadow entity watching, waiting. Hungry, Aric Vale and Lyra'thene stood at the center of the surviving fleet, core energy radiating between them like a living heartbeat. The bond pulsed in synchronization with their movements, resonating through every human nerve, every alien muscle, every weapon and shield in the vicinity. They were no longer just human and alien. They were a living symbol of unity, defiance, and raw power. Lyra's crown flared, casting prismatic light over the assembled soldiers. Her voice rang with command. Today we fight not just for survival, but for every world that dares to hope against tyranny. Hold your ground. Trust in the bond. Aric's grin was sharp, fearless. And remember, humans never surrender. We improvise, we dominate, we win. The first strike came in a wave. Dominion warships unleashed cascades of energy, tearing into the ground with molten arcs. Soldiers ducked behind fractured walls, shields blazing as the core's light flared in Aric's chest. The shadow entity rippled across the battlefield, forming in waves of pure darkness, twisting reality, distorting perception. Aric's mind raced, instincts honed through battles across galaxies. Lyra, we hit the shadow first. Cut its link to their command ships. I'll draw its focus. No, she interrupted sharply, determination blazing in her eyes. We face it together. Alone you are human. Together we are unstoppable. He met her gaze, realizing the truth in her words. All right, then let's show them what humanity and a bond like this can do. They surged forward, core energy spilling outward, forming a luminous path through the chaos. Dominion soldiers were thrown back by the radiant force, weapons disintegrating against the bond's power. The shadow entity shrieked, a sound of pure malevolence clawing at their minds, twisting visions, forcing them to confront fear, doubt, failure. Aric's grin never faltered. He felt every pulse of the core, every breath of Lyra, every heartbeat aligned with his own. It feeds on fear, he muttered, voice low but fierce. We starve it. Lyra's energy flared, sending arcs of light into the darkness. Then we feed it something it cannot understand, courage. Together they moved as one, striking the shadow not just with power but with defiance, with unity. Every attack, every pulse, every thought in harmony pushed it back, unraveling the entity's presence. Dominion warships faltered as their connection to the shadow destabilized. Then came the final moment. The shadow lunged, attempting to separate them, to sever the bond, to consume the core. Aric reached for Lyra, their hands clasping firmly. The core flared between them, a supernova of living light. Now, he shouted, voice carrying across the battlefield. We end this. Lyra nodded, voice steady. Together! The core unleashed a torrent of energy, sweeping across the battlefield, obliterating Dominion weapons, scattering forces, and confronting the shadow in a blinding clash of light and darkness. The entity screamed, twisting, folding, but the bond held, stronger, unyielding, unstoppable. When the light dimmed, silence fell. Dominion forces were in retreat, their commands severed. The shadow entity had been driven into a void, banished by the unprecedented unity of human audacity and alien radiance. Aric dropped to one knee, breathing heavily, still bound to the core, still alive. Lyra knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, energy still glowing softly between them. You did it, she whispered, awe and gratitude in her eyes. We did it. Together, Aric smirked, brushing ash from his jacket. Humans fight, Princess, and sometimes we make a hell of a team. Lyra's lips curved, a soft smile breaking through the fatigue. Then about that question I asked? He raised an eyebrow, the faintest grin tugging at his lips. The one about desire? Her crown glimmered, the core's light reflecting in her eyes. Yes, Aric chuckled, voice steady, confident, human. Yes, Princess, I desire you, and I'll stake every star in the galaxy to keep you safe. Lyra's laughter was radiant, echoing across the battlefield, across worlds, across time. The Empire's soldiers cheered. The twin suns shone brighter, and for the first time in centuries, Solaris 9 felt truly alive. The core pulsed, alive, bonded, and unbreakable, just like their union. Together, human and alien, they had not only survived, they had proven that courage, defiance, and unity could rewrite fate itself. And somewhere in the stars, the universe took note.